What's up, Alex? Welcome
Hey.
to the Empowerment Series. So this is really exciting. This is a very good friend of mine, dear friend. Um, she's one of the best dudes I know, and we have many conversations about practical tools to drop into your heart, to act from your source to empower yourself in general, and to be able to just be that light. And like Alex is a conscious entrepreneur. He is a digital storyteller. He used to have a company where he would tell people's stories through video. He was a videographer, and
hmm
um and he's phenomenal at what he does. And where he's at now, he's doing he's he does creative strategy for entrepreneurs, and moves people into, with practical tools, move people into a place where they can act from their heart. So it is so good to have you here. I'm so glad you're on here with me, Alex.
Kevin, it is wonderful to be here. And before we get started, I just want to say how much I appreciate your energy and this whole empowerment series that you've been hosting the last couple of weeks. I know it's been helping a lot of people, and it's just so beautiful to see you stepping up and just acting as a freaking lighthouse and helping people get through these very interesting and unique times that we're living in.
Thank you so much. I'm super called to do it, and it was completely out of the blue. It's like I'm interviewing somebody and then interviewing just every day.
And then it
So
just kind of like it's just creates this avalanche and it becomes self perpetuating and then it's a thing, you know? Yeah.
organically grows from that place.
Yes.
Yeah. So so man, it's so good to have you here. Like our history is just it's really cool how fast of friends we've become, and so quickly just connected in such
hmm
powerful way. You have a very interesting history that from like who you were to who you are. This like
hmm
transformation. Much like I had a transformation, and you have. I mean, you used to be very introverted, right?
I was extremely introverted. For most of my life, I felt very alone. Like I never quite fit into any social circles. I was definitely bullied some as a kid, and really overall, I just felt very disconnection from any sense of community. Um, and yeah, I just believed that was part of who I was, but I believe that that was mostly a story that I was telling myself.
And
Yeah.
that's so interesting. The stories we tell ourselves tend to be what we create in our lives. And so how did things shift, and what are some tools that changed the trajectory for you?
Mm. Yeah, it's it's interesting looking back. So I think what one of the primary areas that I personally overcome was my stutter. I grew up with a pretty severe childhood stutter to where I wouldn't really raise my hand in class. I was scared to make new friends. I wouldn't go to parties because I literally had this blockage in my throat and my inability to share my voice and to express myself. And there are things that I did to overcome that during college. I went through speech therapy and learned some very valuable lessons there. And one was it's when I first awakened to the idea of so much of our reality is based on the stories that we tell ourselves, like you were saying. And this disability, this issue that I was having, only had the power over me that I allowed it to. And that opened up my mind to just how how much more malleable our thoughts and our emotions and what we consider us actually is, and that at a certain level everything is a skill. You know, everything can be improved, everything can be learned. I mean, if you're 5'4", you're probably not going to play in the National Basketball League. You know, there are there are certain genetic limitations, but I'd say people give a little too much credit to that and not enough credit to our own inherent power, and really the power of our thoughts and our desires to create our own reality. And so, I mean, just on a high level overview, and then I'm sure we can dive into some of these. One of the most practical tools was meditation. I really started diving into meditation when I was like 22, 23, made it a fairly consistent daily practice. And that helped me to start to get separation from my thoughts. And instead of like identifying with those negative stories that I was telling myself, I started to be able to get a little bit of distance and be like, oh, that's interesting. But is that useful? Like, is it useful for me to think or to feel this way, and to realize the sovereignty that I had just over my own inner world? And another was just really the focus on asking myself consistently, what do I want? And that was extremely powerful, just in terms of, you know, envisioning that person that I wanted to become. And there's a lot of tools involved with there. And someone that we didn't particularly mention in the intro that I'm deeply appreciative of is just my relationship with Jesse Elder, who's been a great teacher of mine, a mentor, someone who I've worked with for many years. And some of these tools and strategies I kind of incorporated from him and from our relationship. So really, it was just first the knowledge that I could change, and then there were some very tactical things that I did and habits that I changed in my life in order to accelerate my growth. And it's true, just like over the last couple of years, like there's friends that I haven't seen since like college, and they met up and they're like what? It's like, who are you? Like, you seem like it's still you, but it's like more you know, like more you than you used to be. It's like you used to be like hiding, and now it's like, oh shit, here's like actual Alex, you know? So anyway, I think that's probably a good enough high level overview there.
It's interesting because when we first met, I believe we talked about speech language pathology because
Yes.
yeah, well, we have that in common. You know, for me, it's dysarthria. I've slurred speech, which I've slowed down a lot, and so I speak slower, and I've improved that quite a bit. And and you know, talk, and then we also met through Jesse Elder, through
Yeah.
something there, and you were filming because you were the videographer and digital storyteller, as you label yourself, for Jesse Elder.
Mhm.
And we just began talking and became fast friends on that. And it's true, like when I first met you, you had a bit of a stutter, and now I haven't seen that creep up at all in years.
No, it popped up. I had a meeting this morning, like a 2-hour conversation, and there was one point where I was like, ah, and I was like, oh, there you are, old friend, you
Mhm.
know. But it's like super rare. Yeah. And now, saying that, I will say that stuttering is a condition and a disability that um, we still don't really know the root causes of. I was thankful to know actually some of the cutting edge researchers in that field that work at the University of Texas. And so there's some people that do recover fully and have that ability to do so, while others, it remains a serious condition throughout their entire life, and people don't really know why. And I won't completely attribute that to just my desire to change and law of attraction, and which I completely believe in. But you know, some people, I'm very appreciative that I was able to kind of transmute this and to outgrow it mostly.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
impressive. And yeah, you filmed a documentary on stuttering as well. Is that right? Is that still on YouTube?
It is, yeah, yeah. I filmed it. I went to film school at the University of Texas in Austin, and yeah, junior year, I shot a documentary. I connected with a community there of people who stutter, so I interviewed them, and then Dr. Courtney Bird, who's a leading researcher and clinician in the field, and yeah, it actually helped. Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's called Let Me Finish. I think it has around like 150,000 views, which is pretty cool for like a 15, 20-minute documentary on student film on stuttering. And just one quick thing that just really kind of woke me up to the power of story, to the power of stories to shape people's understanding and to make an impact is, and I'll make this very brief, but that documentary, it turned out that like a year and a half after it came out, a wealthy attorney in LA who went to UT, who had seen the documentary, was who stuttered throughout his entire life. He was so moved by it, and especially by Dr. Courtney Bird, he called her up, and it turned out that she was just in the middle. This was like 18 months after it was shot, just in the middle of raising funds for the first ever like purely stuttering focused research facility, and she was looking for grant money. And it was like this huge vision of providing free clinical care to kids and to adults, as well as like really getting on the cutting edge of like what causes stuttering. And he saw the documentary. He was so inspired. He called her up. He got some friends together, ended up donating like a couple $1 million. And then through my video company, I was able to like document the story of this new stuttering institute. And really, it was like this all led to this. And now it's like the leading place where like people go to get therapy. And then also like they're really diving into the science of why stuttering happens. And a big spark of that was this little student film that I created. So it just shows you the power of putting messages out there and sharing your truth. And who knows what kind of impact that it
That's
can
so
potentially have.
yeah, and the reason I bring it up is just your passion and your willingness to face your fears and face uncomfortable scenarios, you know, like I often say, if I'm not uncomfortable, like if I'm comfortable too long, I'm uncomfortable with being comfortable, you know?
Mm,
Like it feels like it's out of place. Like there needs to be an edge that's being pushed. And
yeah.
and yeah, and I recognize that in you, like pushing the edge and improving yourself constantly. And in this in this place, let's bring this to the situation that we're currently dealing with right now. There's a lot of people that have been, you know, had the rug pulled out from under them, basically, and have lost their jobs. Have like things have all changed,
Yeah.
not by any the like without their say, you know, and now things are challenging for a lot of people, and and I know you and I have both been in places like this, and we talked about meditation a bit, but what's do you have some meditation tools that you specifically use?
I do. I do. And first of all, I'll say that I'm appreciative to I'm actually here at my girlfriend's house. This is her dad's study. She lives with her parents, and so I'm appreciative to have people in my life that support me and care about me. And yeah, I know we've both been economically hit as well. You know, I mean, as it has everyone. But I know that there's a lot of people out there who just have completely lost their jobs, that are in just a really hard place right now. And I get that. And for me, there's a couple things that have really helped me through periods of my life, especially a couple of years ago when I was running my video business and working like 60, 70 hours a week and feeling like super stressed. And it was not a very good place. And for me, in terms of meditation, first, just what it's really done for me is it's helped me create some separation between the anxieties and the fears that I feel, and like who I am as a person, and like recognizing my power of choice. Because, there's that term, mind mind the gap, which is like a funny thing of like if there's like a gap in a road or something. But you can also, like, what meditation teaches you to do is mind the gap of your own thoughts and of your own feelings. And within those gaps is where the intuition lies. It's where the creativity lies. It's where the love is. I mean, it's just like, not to riff off too much here, but just like the universe is 99% dark matter and 1% matter. Your cells are 99% empty space. It's like, that's true of us too. It's like, we have so much more room within us. And oftentimes we have this thought and we think of it as true. And it's like, oh, you have this fearful thought or this stressful thought, but it's not necessarily the case. And you can create a little bit more distance there. Oh, it looks like I'm kind of freezing up.
There you
Am
go.
I
You're
am I
good.
back on?
You're good now.
Okay.
Yeah, you were
Okay,
like
cool.
for a while, but
Yeah. It's like a good little frozen spot there. So yeah, it's really helped me. I mean, I was on anti-anxiety meds for a while, which I don't even know if I told you that. I was drinking way too much. I was all this, and meditation was the number one way for me just to get to a place where I could think with more clarity and just be like, okay, what do I actually want? Like, who do I want to be? Like, how can I look at this? Because it's like there's so much that we think of in terms that we worry about that's actually outside of our zone of control. That's outside of like, what can we actually impact, and what do we have the power to influence in our own lives? And so this is just a way to become grounded in that. So specifically, you mentioned meditation tools. Do you mean like specific meditations that I've used, or kind of other tools that I found helpful?
Well, first I wanna comment on what you were saying.
Yeah.
Like, our we have thoughts, but we're not necessarily our thoughts. And and we have so much control over the trajectory of our thoughts as well. We've talked a bunch about this. And right now there's a lot of people that are at home, they're either stressed or they're bored. And it reminded me of this Louis
Mm,
CK quote that I'm gonna paraphrase, but it basically was like, boredom, like, doesn't even make sense. There's so many things that you haven't seen, so many books you haven't read. Even the vastness of your own mind is infinite. It goes on forever. That's like kind of a meditation is such a beautiful place to explore your own mind, take inventory, and shift it bit by bit. Um, why don't you answer the question that I asked earlier about specific tools you use? However you'd like, either ones that you're using now, ones you've
sure,
used.
sure. Yeah, well, for me, the what it really comes down to most in terms of like the core emotion, because for me, a big part of what I've gone through and what's just helped me the most is getting more out of my head and more into my heart, you know, which is true on like an emotional kind of cliche level, but also like just on a pure feeling of like of energy and where you think and feel from. Like, there's so many positive qualities of dropping into your heart: love, compassion, loyalty, confidence. It's these feelings that actually, if you can get in touch with those, generate from your heart and then go back up into your mind in order to reduce stress and anxiety and unlock those higher levels of your thinking, like creativity, intuition. It's called mind heart coherence, which there's actual ways to measure that in terms of your heartbeat. And so for me, the emotion that I always come back to, um, and I've developed and incorporated many practical tools around, is the feeling of appreciation. Appreciation for me is always number one, because sometimes you're in a negative place, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxious, your kids are yelling at you, you haven't got enough sleep, you're stuck in traffic, whatever it is. Maybe it's hard to feel like just pure love in that moment, or maybe it's hard to feel like compassion, but appreciation, there's always something you can appreciate. There's always something. It's like, I appreciate that my big toe feels good. I appreciate that I can breathe. I appreciate that I ate a meal this morning. I appreciate, like, you can always find something to appreciate. And our reality is often like a party. And it's like, we have this camera and it's like, we can point at any part of the party at any time. And if we're pointing at the two people making out in the corner, it's like, that's awesome. If it's the drunk kid in the backyard who's puking, it's like, that's not awesome. And it's like, we have the power at any moment to draw the lens of our attention to like any point. And so for me, it's like getting into that place of appreciation has helped tremendously. And the more that you do that, the more, it's not just like you do it and then you go back to feeling the other way. It's like you're literally training your brain to think about more appreciative things. And when you wake up in the morning, you start thinking more positive thoughts. And then that manifests into how you treat other people, the ideas that start to come in. And so for me, there's been a couple core tools that I've used to help cultivate this. The first is a meditation that maybe we can drop a link in here afterwards, actually by my mentor, Jesse Elder. It's called the Prime Light meditation, which I found extremely valuable. It's a 4-phase meditation that has a core component of active appreciation built within it. For someone who perhaps hasn't meditated before, there's a guided meditation. So if someone wants that and they're watching live on Facebook, drop a comment. I'll make sure to link to that. It's actually a guided meditation that I recorded with him a couple of years ago. Very, very powerful. A big area for me has been journaling. So there's a couple journaling exercises that kind of I've developed that I found extremely useful. The first is called Greatest Hits. So what this has done for me, and you don't have to do it through journaling. I'm a huge fan of journaling because, I found that the slower your thoughts, the deeper you're thinking, and kind of, the deeper that you can go into these areas. And so for greatest hits, it's like so often we're like looking forwards and we're creating that gap of like where we are versus where we want to be, or what's happening and what's kind of wrong in our lives, which makes sense because that's kind of the job of the ego, is to like look at things that need to be fixed. And so this provides an opportunity to really like sit down. You can do it by yourself, you can do it with your partner, you can do it with a friend, and you just go through the last month, the last year, however long you want, and just write down all the progress you've made, like all the incredible things that have happened to you throughout that period of your life, and really feel it. Like that's the thing with whether it's meditation, journaling, thoughts are nice, but thoughts that are not attached to feelings hold no power. And so it's really about it's about the feeling first, like getting into that place of just deep appreciation of like, wow, I love that time that I went on that trip with this person, or I had that amazing coffee date, or I woke up and my dog was like snuggling next. Like, it doesn't matter how monumental or how mundane it is. It's just like getting into that place of appreciation about all the great things that have happened to you. I'll just share one or two more quickly. Another is something that is called the Rampage of Appreciation, and it sounds kind of like aggressive, but it's kind of like this avalanche. And you could be in any situation. You could be at your desk. You could be out in the backyard. You could be on a walk. You could be. I mean, right now you're probably not driving around too much, but you could be doing that. And essentially, you start this reaction of things that you appreciate. And oftentimes, for me, I'll just start by saying like, I appreciate, and then I'll feel that. And then I'll look around and be like, I appreciate the color of that tree. I appreciate that we all have, cars that we can drive around and go all these cool places. Like, I appreciate that I like was able to go buy these clothes. I appreciate that there's like restaurants where you can like, whatever it is in your environment or about yourself or about other people. Because what you're doing there is that you might not initially be like in a super positive place. You know, you might be feeling super like stressed or anxious or afraid, but you can find something, some toehold into like a more positive, appreciative place. And then from there, it's like these building blocks where you appreciate one thing and then another and another. And over time, these can kind of stack until you do this. Trust me, if you actually do this for 5 to 10 minutes, the emotional state that you'll be in when you're done, it's completely different than when you start. I mean, it's if you can really focus on that, it's extremely powerful. So those are two kind of mindful exercises that I found helpful in addition to the prime light meditation, which I'll be happy to share in the comments right after the video.
Yeah, I'd love that too, man.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
and Jesse, that sounds great. Um, and with the appreciative energy, like shifting your energy into that state, we're all mirrors of each other. You know, we all resonate with each other in whatever way. And there's actually science backing this up with like with the amplitude of the frequency. You know, our brains have a frequency and an amplitude, and we put on EEGs and we can measure that, like the brain waves. Our
Hmm.
hearts also have a frequency, and really like everything has frequency, but the amplitude of our hearts is like 10 times more powerful than the amplitude of our brains. And you know, thinking about resonance, uh, if I strum a chord on a guitar and like plug it into an amp and like blast that, and I have another guitar hanging out, the strings on that guitar are going to start vibrating as well because of the frequency that's being projected out, being amplified. And so that resonance actually affects everybody around us. And we know this. Like if you walk into a room where people are all in you know in a kind of negative mood,
Yeah.
you kind of drags you down a little bit. Whereas if you walk into a party where everybody's having a good time, it's like, all right, like let's have a good time, right? Like we begin to resonate that. But as you said, there's the different lenses of that party, so it depends on
Yeah,
what we're focusing on.
absolutely. And yeah, I mean, there's been so many studies that have shown that our brain does, I mean, our heart does emit an actual electromagnetic field. I think it's up to like 10 feet away from our body. And they've actually quantified that. They've measured it. So when you're interacting with other people, it's like your fields are literally meeting. And so if you're meeting and you're in a place of stress and anxiety versus a place of appreciation or love, it's like, how do you think that other person's going to respond to you? And when you're in that situation, especially with, I mean, a lot of people I know now, it's like you're mostly with, I mean, perhaps you're by yourself or you're just with a couple loved ones. And it's like, it's easy, like, especially if it's just you and your partner, you're spending so much time together to like get in those places of like, maybe you're nitpicking a little bit or you're like spending a little too much time together and you're like so it's really important, especially in those moments, to like cultivate that appreciation and like find things that you can. I've done this often, like in times especially where I start to drift towards um having feelings of stress or anger, like with my girlfriend, and I'll immediately like shift my brain and start listing things in my mind of what I appreciate about her and trying to like see her as her best self. And I noticed that it starts to shift the conversation because so I start to feel better. I'm starting to emit that different frequency, literally on like a tangible electromagnetic level. And then the other person responds and reciprocates to that. You
That's
know, I mean, it's powerful, and it can both sound woo, but it's also it's also now increasingly being backed by science too.
And really, yeah, and it's like, all right, is it woo? Like, is there not proof of it, so it
Yeah,
doesn't exist?
no,
Um,
really, all that matters is try it, and if it works, do it some more.
there,
Like that's
there you go.
like if
That's
it's useful, cool. Like that's what I judge every like and any tool, meditation, like philosophy that I'm incorporating. It's like I do it, I test it, I iterate. If it works, I keep it. If it doesn't, then cool. I'll try
Yeah.
something else. You
We
know?
interviewed Dr. David Rosenthal recently, and he was talking about value. And he's like, is it valuable for you?
Yeah.
And if it has value, awesome. And if it doesn't, then that, as far as I'm concerned, that's not qualified to have my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have meditation practices, we have journaling practices, greatest hits, things of that sort. And it's been my experience with both of those been super powerful. Just writing out things, and I gave you one of these, didn't I? So we
You
have.
did, man. Yeah, I finished that in like 2 weeks, and I need to buy another journal to fit into that
Yeah,
sleeve.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link for that. Yeah,
Cool.
but journaling's so powerful, and and I mean I like what you said about slowing down our thoughts. When we write things out, it slows down our thoughts, and that also might be why writing it out is more powerful than typing. That's been my experience, and
Same here. Same here.
yeah, but typing can be powerful as well. Like digital journals do have a place, but
Absolutely. And I mean, overall, I would say especially in a time like this where, most people do have more time,
yeah,
they have more time available to them. And while there's nothing wrong with, watching Netflix or hopefully if you're with your partner having lots of great sex, more of that for sure. This is also like a time to dive deep into yourself, and most people in the world that we live in like just don't take time to really think about who they are and what they want and what they value and what they stand for and how they want to show up in the world and what kind of impact they want to create. It's like we live our whole lives with these just kind of like superficial beliefs that honestly have mostly been indoctrinated through other people. It's what our parents thought, it's what our leaders think, it's what we read just in a book this one time. And unless you take the time to really slow down and to go into yourself, go into your mind, and take that time to write down those thoughts, you're the majority of what you think and what you feel is actually just it's just imitations of other people's stories. And if you want to truly create your own unique story in the world, like be your own unique self, it requires time to really understand who you are and to look inside instead of outside for those answers.
yeah, yeah. And it requires you to be the author. you know
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
to write your story, to write it, um to authorize yourself.
Hmm.
So so cool to see how you have had, when we talk about voice, you have stepped up so powerfully in so many ways, and I want to commend you on just all the ways that you're stepping up. Started the whole Still Time series,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
this is great. You can see pictures, but Alex, there's pictures of Alex meditating in the most amazing places where you never see somebody meditating, and there's people like looking at him like, what the hell's that guy
Yeah.
doing? It's
Airports, Times Square, uh, gyms, coffee shops, yeah, just all sorts of random public places.
yeah,
It's been fun. It's been fun.
totally. Yeah, there's been times when you've been like, hey, you got to take a picture of me here.
Oh yeah, yes,
Got you.
you have been the photographer of at
It's
least a couple in that series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff. So the Still Time series, and you write these long, beautiful posts of of concepts and ideas that are extremely useful for people, like not only thought provoking but very, very practical. And you know, often just telling a story of yourself and like what you learn from it and how it can, how, yeah, how you utilize it to transform yourself. And of course our neurology, well, maybe not of course, but our neurology responds so powerfully to story above just about anything. Story we pay attention to, which is why like fables or fable,
Hmm.
like they work, right? We tell children fables to learn because they remember those. And yeah, I just want to commend you on those, and commend you on your photography skills on them. Beautiful photographs as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and on the photography, I mean, 80% of the photos are from other people. But I just kind of, I went to film school, so I know kind of how to direct and be like, okay, we need this angle and like this position and like this kind of thing. So that's fun. And I know with you, like we've oh, it looks like it's frozen again.
Yeah, it is kind of frozen.
Okay,
That's
but
all right. I
if
can
you can
start.
hear my voice, I'm just gonna keep talking.
Yeah,
But yeah, I remember that time last summer where we went out to McKinney Falls State
yeah.
Park, and we spent a whole afternoon together. In fact, one of my most recent posts with like me with the journal
Mhm.
and all that under the tree, that was shot by you. And it's so fun to like just find new modes for creative expression,
Yeah.
you know. And and thank you so much for your shout outs to just what I've been writing and all that. And for me,
Thank you
um,
for writing it.
for me, I mean, just to bring this back to my own journey, I really only started sharing on social like a little less than a year ago. Before that, I just felt so much resistance, and I know that there's a lot of people out there who have that resistance. Maybe they're sharing some now, but they feel like they can't really dig into the vulnerable stuff, like to the true things that are in their heart, or they just like barely share anything because they're like, well, people are going to criticize me and judge me. And yeah, I mean, I dealt with that for years, even after my stutter got in a much better place. And I've found though that once I kind of broke through that and I was able to really get through that fear and share those first couple posts and get that message out there. And within the first like 4 or 5 posts I was sharing, it was like super esoteric poetry and like all this, like whatever was true for me, of things that it's like, it's not just me sharing pictures of my cat or something. It was like straight into like what I actually gave a shit about, and like how I was like, hello world, it's me. And yeah, I cared what other people thought and all that, of course you do. But it was just like getting through that initial block. And what I've recognized is like, creative expression is a form of invention. It's a form of like putting your own self out into the world. And the more that you can just get through those initial fears and can share the vulnerable parts of you. And when I say expression, I don't just mean online. I mean the clothes that you wear, the haircut you decide to have, the opinions that you desire to express, just like your full spectrum self. And the more that you can show up like that, it's like the more opportunities that you find to do so. And it's like this like upward spiral of growth. Like I know a lot of people sometimes criticize people who kind of like overshare on social. And I do think that there's different energies. Some people are truly sharing just to kind of join a certain level of just like, oh, look at this, like please feel sorry for me, which I understand some people are in that place. But if you're doing it from a place of like expansion and like wanting to grow, it's just, I found it as like one of the most powerful avenues of just breaking through those barriers of fear and really like understanding who you are and what you value and how you want to show up in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and that's where the meditation comes in as well, for like finding what that is. And I love it. Like what you're sharing, that's part of creating, you know. You're creating the thoughts and the feelings, and then you're expressing it. And that's where you had difficulties with the expression piece. And and now you're off the charts with things, man. It's amazing. It's so powerful what you do. And so, do you help others get to that place? Do you help teach others how to I mean, you have a whole bag of tricks that you've acquired over the years of, you know, yeah, I guess I was going to say reinventing ourselves, right? Um,
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
because we're always inventing.
Always.
We're always creating. So what are we creating? And you chose to shift the trajectory. And yeah, and I'm sure you have so many tools, and you help others to do the same.
That's something that I'm leaning into currently. Yeah. There's no link. There's no like place to schedule a call. I will say though that just completely transparently for like where I'm at is I have helped a number of friends through issues and blockages and things that they've dealt with, and people that have reached out to me via social, which sometimes it's freaking just heart aching stories of people who just have had dreams for their entire lives and just never felt like they could express themselves. And whether in a relationship or for a business or for a and the expression, like I said, it isn't just voice. Like it isn't just verbally expressing. It's like just birthing that idea into the world and allowing yourself to be judged by others, and yet just be empowered and be within your own body and with your own skin, and to be comfortable with that. So what I would say now is just for anyone who is interested in having a conversation, that's where I'm at now. Like I really just want to discover more around where people are at, what they're dealing with, and just kind of figure out ways that I may be able to help them. So Facebook is a great way to reach out to me, and I'd love to just schedule some calls. And if there's a way that I can help in a more formal capacity, then well, we can look at that during the call. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. So yeah, and people can just send you a message on Facebook. Um, Perfect. Or
Yeah.
comment in
Yeah.
here or whatever. Just tag Alex in it. And yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. It's super powerful. I know firsthand. I feel so fortunate to to have watched your transformation and played an itty bitty part of it, and been with you for the ride. And I know that every single conversation we have, I walk away and I'm like, that was good. That was really good. Yeah. So I'm excited to see who takes them up and what happens with all that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and thank you so much. And yeah, just one last thing that I will add here, that I've just kind of spoken to throughout, and it's just been a big part of my own journey the last couple of years, is just recognizing that you have more power than you give yourself credit for. Your thoughts do not control you. Your feelings do not control you. Your current life situation does not control you. The government does not control you. Your wife or husband does not control you. You, if you accept it, can have the sovereign ability to create your own reality. And like it all starts from within. It all starts from going within getting some of that inner peace, getting some of that stillness to create those gaps in your mind where you can separate yourself from that little inner roommate that speaks with the little like negative criticism voice, and you can kind of like just give it a pat in the head and be like, oh, thank you, ego, that's a nice little statement, but I'm just going to ignore you right now because I got more important shit to do. And the more that you can cultivate that sovereignty and that self-efficacy and just that power, you start to realize just how malleable life really is, and that you can at any moment, you know, think a different thought and feel a different feeling and tap into your intuition and your creativity and levels of clarity that you may not even think are possible. So that's just the message that I want to leave everyone with, is like, you are so much more powerful and worthy and fucking incredible than you might even realize. So tap into that, because the world needs you. Like, the world, as we come out of this, like, the world is going to need each and every one of us to step up and just to be more of who we're freaking born to be.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So true. So true. Yeah. So now's the time. If we
Yeah.
haven't been stepping up in the past, now's the time to step up and to be who you've always wanted to be, to do what you've always wanted to do, to create what you've always wanted to create. And yeah, this is such a great place to plant the seeds for your future, you know. So another thing you touched on was relationships right now. So I wanted to let you all know that we're going to be interviewing Lee Nato tomorrow, about relationships, and you know, especially when you're at home in this scenario with your significant other. So that's tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And oh wait, no, 11 o'clock Pacific time. Yeah, whatever. I'll put it in the post. But that's it. And yeah, it's so true. When we're in the tight quarters, things can get a little dicey. But staying
Yeah.
true to who you
Yeah.
are and being the creator that were born as, and creating exactly what you want, that's 100% within our power.
Man, yeah, and I'm really looking forward to that to that interview tomorrow. And yeah, for me it's that, and then also communication, which I'm sure is a big part of what you guys will be talking around as well. It's just being open, being vulnerable, sharing your desires, your feelings, like, especially as guys, sometimes that's tough. It's like you want to be like the Rock, or you want to be like the guy who's there to support it. And yeah, I've definitely learned a lot from my relationship with my girlfriend Allison these last 6-7 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
actually, so Alex and Allison both came to Oregon with where me and my partner are at, and came up on my birthday without me having any knowledge of it. And we went to this beautiful lake. We were just hanging out there, and all of a sudden this car pulls up and it parks, and I'm like, it's just somebody coming up and parking. And then boom, there's Alex and Allison, like, hey, what are you doing
we
here? Like, and you'll see my jaw is just like on the floor. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And
we got it on video. It was like this 30-second, like,
yeah,
what?
that was
it was
amazing.
it was with that one moment, and then the hug that we shared after that. That was worth the entire trip. I mean, because we went from Austin all the way up to Oregon. It's like that, like 1 minute of time was worth. And then of course we spent an amazing couple days together and
Yes,
all
yes,
that. But yeah, that I will remember that always. And
yeah,
that really spoke to me too, just like the magic that you can create in other people's lives, you
yeah,
know, like just by doing things that are spontaneous and playful and surprising, and you can create a lot of joy. A lot
yeah,
of joy. Yeah.
yes, yes. Creating memories and memorable moments, and enjoy.
Yeah.
bringing that from your heart and that place of appreciation
Hmm.
um, is a perfect start. Yo, Alex, thank you so much, man. It's always such a pleasure. And my man, I appreciate you so much, so much.
Appreciate you too, brother. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on and yeah, just appreciate life, man. Do it.
Appreciate your life.
It's always the best choice, you know? Yeah.
All right. Adios, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Adios.